Everyone, let's get started, and very welcome to this session of the second PCST visual presentation session in this year's conference, which will take place from now on until end of May, actually. But you know all about that, you've seen the program. My name is Jan Riese. I'm based in Sweden, on the west coast of Sweden, where the sun is shining and it's finally getting a little bit more spring-like in this part of the world. But I know that our participants today are from many other parts of the world, so it's kind of good morning, good evening, good afternoon to everyone. Very, very welcome wherever you are and whatever time it is. I have a couple of very brief house rules for our presenters. They are supposed to stick to 3 minutes, 3 minutes each, and if you may see this little sign, if you go towards the 3 minutes without any sign of sort of finishing, and in worst case I will just mute you and say sorry, we have to go on. This is only for the purpose of having some time at the end to discuss and talk and ask and answer questions. So that's about that. For those of you who use Twitter, there's a hashtag saying PCST 2021, PCST 2021. Please use that and add to the social media conversation at the end. There will be a quick polling thing at the end. We will ask you to vote for, we'll ask the attendees to vote for the best presentation in this round of presenters, and some of the best will then be invited to a special show later on. But let's get to work right away, and I will ask the first presenter today, which is Nicole Maxine Apollinaru, to make presentations of assessment of management effectiveness. Could you take the screen and the floor and whatever you need, Nicole, and please go on for your 3 minutes.
Okay, I'm gonna start now. Good evening to all participants and organizers of this webinar. I am Nicole Maxine Apollinario from the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. I am here to present my research entitled Assessment of the Management Effectiveness of 100 Islands National Park in Alaminos City, Pangasinan, Philippines. So the Management Effectiveness Assessment Tool, also known as MIT, was used to evaluate the effectiveness of existing management systems in 100 Islands National Park. So Figure 1 depicts the study findings based on primary and secondary data gathered from local government offices and private organizations. Threats such as the expansion of housing, industrial activities, human intrusion, solid waste pollution, and illegal fishing have emerged. As shown in Figure 2, 100 Islands National Park was able to meet the requirements for all levels 1 to 4, with the exception of IEC and enforcement, as shown in Figure 4. 100 Islands National Park achieved perfect scores. Figure number 3 and figure number 5 and figure number 6 and figure number 7 shows the respondents' demographic information, while figure 8, figure 9, figure 10, figure 11, figure 12, figure 13, and figure 14 are the community perception results wherein the respondents have significantly higher levels of knowledge and awareness about the importance of the 100 Highlands National Park. The majority of them also have favorable views of 100 Islands National Park's conservation and management. But for wrap up, the Protected Area Management Board, which directly manages the marine protected area, has done a great job ensuring the 100 Islands National Park's integrity. Knowledge and perceptions must be investigated and considered when developing policies and park management strategies to ensure sustainable utilization of natural resources and adequate protection of the marine protected area. Thank you for taking the time to listen. That's all.
Thank you so much. I'm afraid we had a little bit trouble hearing you at some points, but I think most of it went through very well. And I should say at the same time that please, we will take all the questions and hopefully also the answers then after the presentations. So please put them in the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll look at that when we come closer towards the end of this. Without any further delay, I'd like to turn to Martin from Stockholm, which is in this very same country as I am, in Sweden, and give you the floor and the screen and the time, the 3 minutes to present your presentation, Stuck Without the Middle. Please go.
So thank you very much. Can you all see my screen, my shared screen?
Actually, I see all the 5 like that. Thanks.
Yeah, okay. So thank you very much. I'll start the clock here. So the background to this poster is that the organization I'm working for, Public in Science, which is a non-profit organization in Sweden, we've been doing an annual citizen science project since 2009. And this is part of the European Researchers' Night, which is a European-wide science festival. So we do this citizen science project each year. And the main target group and participant group for this is schools. So we work towards teachers and school students. And over the years, we have developed this concept and this model for doing citizen science project, where we take the role as facilitators or sort of the bridge between the researcher and the participants. And each year we vary the topic of the research and the different research group and researchers we're working with. Just to give you an example from the poster also, can just give you one example because that's what I'm timed to. So 2018, we did what we call the Ladybug Experiment, which was a combination of biodiversity, entomology, and artificial intelligence, where we collected images of ladybugs and the images were used then to train an artificial intelligence to recognize different species of ladybugs. So that's one example of what we're doing as a citizen project. And I sort of in my poster and here also I want to highlight a few sort of things that we learned over the years by doing this and by being this bridge between research and the participants. So a few sort of key to success points is that we recognize that it's very good to have a cross-disciplinary project team consisting of both expertise in research, but also communication professionals, because a lot of these projects is actually communication. Also working towards schools, it's connecting the research topic to the school curriculum and just having a good connection and dialogue with the participants during the project. And a few sort of challenges we have is the fact that many teachers need to plan their teaching in advance, and how we sort of already in the spring can have contact with them and get them to do the experiment in September, October to sort of keep the motivation up. And the last point that I want to pin here is have to engage these participants in other ways than just data collection. I'm sure that all people working with citizen science is familiar with this challenge as well. So thank you very much for listening.
It was kind of 2 minutes, 59 seconds and 9/10 of a second. Excellent. Thank you, Martin. We're happy to of course, to take questions for this later on, as I said. I think we have to move on to Chi now. Chi Lin from the Sun Yat-sen University in Taiwan. Your Fridays for Farm presentation, as we are actually missing 2 of our presenters that should have been before you. We'll see if they show up, and if so, we'll let them in somewhere towards the end of this. But Chi, please, if you feel prepared, please go on with your presentations. You have your 3 minutes. Thanks.
Hi, it's Chi Lin calling from National Sun Yat-sen University in Taiwan. This poster presents our study on using campus farm as a platform for communicating current agri-food issues. Our guiding research question explores the impact of engaging the community members in the farming practices from land preparation, crops growing to harvesting. So the initial consideration of setting up the farm is the location, which should allow the local people to meet and to exchange ideas. It's a small patch of 90 square meters, which is manageable for everyone to have a daily quick check and to observe the biohabitat and the soil maintenance. So to assess the impact, we use questionnaire, Sustainable Agriculture Production Consumption Scale. 199 valid cases have been collected. So significant changes occurred in the aspects of the participants' recognition of the community agriculture in the urban area and their support of and recognition of local food and their attitude toward organic farming. Also their rejection of additives to food and their conceptions of land ethic. Right. So to conclude, in this study, a tiny green patch is able to appeal to a wide range of participants. Our farm made the headline of major national newspapers about what can be done and how to do it regarding sustainable agriculture like food security or land-friendly farming. So it suggests that hand-on science communication facilities such as the carbon fixation strategies like biochar oven or the green transportations should be invested and put into practice in the community context. So that's my presentation, and please check my poster for more details. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellent. I love this idea of campus farming. That sounds so great. Coming away from all this academic stuff and do some real farming in between. That would be nice. Please keep in mind that the participants, attendees, are expected to or invited to participate in a poll at the end here for the best presentation. And just as Cheese just said, you can also access all the presentations at the PCST conference website to see the posters and download them if you like. I think, Carolina, that we'll have to go to you now. I can't see that Isabel has logged on. Are you prepared to take this wonderful challenge and opportunity of presenting this in 3 minutes?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sorry for this inconvenience, but it's a personal reason, and I am going to share her presentation. Let me see. Sorry.
Hello, everyone.
Sorry, because
As I understood it, you wanted to share a video that you made yesterday, wasn't it?
yeah, no, this isn't mine. Sorry.
No, but
This
a
one.
video that you got. Yeah.
Okay.
Here we go.
Okay, perfect. Can you see the video now?
Hello everyone, thank you for having us and allow for the presentation of the Concise project. Concise is an EU-funded project that tries to answer the question on how does the public build their opinions and beliefs related to scientific issues. To answer this question, 9 organizations listed here in the slide decided to join and held 5 citizen consultations with 100 people each in 5 countries: Italy, Poland, Portugal, Slovakia, and Spain. The project started in December 2018 by devising the common methodology based on the wide worldview consultation approach. The consortium started laying the foundation of basically everything consultation related: the scripts, the activities, the ice-breaking activities, the structure of the tables, the venue, everything. In March 2019, after the first drafts of the whole project were ready, a small pilot consultation took place in Barcelona. This way, the consortium was able to learn from experience, validate the method, and contribute to the development of the shared guidelines. The implementation toolkit prepared by the University of Łódź counted 30 different templates and included everything from checklist to a final summary report template for afterwards the consultation was held. Meanwhile, in July 2019, we started the recruitment campaign. This was carried out 100% offline and centralized by the University of Valencia. We got well over 1,000 submissions. Finally, between September and November 2019, the consultations were held and were attended by 497 people. We gathered over 500 hours of recordings that were later carefully transcribed into more than 3,500 pages overall. All teams perform lexical and content analysis using TLab and NVivo software and a code book agreed upon. This was all coordinated by our partners from Observa in Italy. Some partners have also done an anthropological approach, although this was not mandatory. First lessons have been already issued, including 6 policy briefs, a book accounting for the whole ordeal of the project, 2 proceedings papers, and 4 papers that are already accepted and are either already published or in press. All outputs can be downloaded from the project's website. You are all invited to check them. And thank you so much for your attention. And that's all from my side.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for doing this, Carolina. Excellent. If I understand it correctly, you have a presentation of your own now,
Yeah.
which by coincidence comes directly after this one.
Yeah.
It's about how Spanish people are influenced by various media or health professionals about their diets, and I really look forward to hear this.
Okay.
So if you feel prepared to go on right away, please
Okay.
feel free to do
Thank
so.
you.
And
Thank you, Tom.
I'll start the clock again.
Hello, everyone. The study that I'm presenting together with my colleague from the University of Valencia Science Flows team is part of huge research funded by the Spanish government. And the research question were what do media and social network role play in the decision to decline one food or another? Which channels do citizens use to look for nutritional information? And which are the favorite sources of information to understand information related food? Taking advantage of an event with 100 Spanish citizens in October 2019 with great socio-demographic diversity in a public consultation with the framework of the European Consortium project, which Isabel Mendoza presented before. We launched a survey through a QR code for citizens to respond to as one of the activities integrated in the participatory process. And we also told them to forward it to relatives and friends. And we finally got 324 responses on 45 variables. We consider the variables gender, age, levels of education, health, status, and relevance of food as are illustrated for the study, and the rest of the variables related to the 18 patterns followed by the citizen, their motivations, and possible influences were deemed to be active variable used in the multiple correspondence analysis. This exploratory data allowed us to summarize and visualize datasets composed of more than 2 categorical variables in scatter diagrams. We use them with the aim of identify groups of people with similar response profiles and study relationships between variables. So the main finding of this study were the number of responses about the influence that globe people have on the choice of a diet indicates that there is agreement that friends could influence people's decision related to diets and eating patterns more than relatives, especially among younger women. The role of physician is also very limited, as you can see, and the media was perceived as having a limited influence on the diet that people choose. And finally, the perception of 90% of interview was that celebrity plays an essential role in the choice of diets by citizens. They indicated that in this case, the influence is because of the person and not the channel through which they spread their message. Thank you very much for your attention and have a nice afternoon.
Thank you very much. Interesting indeed to see these. It's not the people who talk about science, there are other people who are actually influential when it comes to eating or diets. Thank you. We'll come back to that, and please don't forget to put your questions in the Q&A or in the chat if you like. And please go on tweeting or Facebooking about this as well if you like. By the way, by now you will have guessed that the theme of this session is participatory science communication and citizen science. It's all about that. And I now will turn to Alice, all the way to Sydney, I think, to talk about breaking good open source drug discovery and science communication. Are you prepared to go on? You obviously are. Please, the screen is yours.
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here to talk about Breaking Good, which is an international citizen science project that empowers members of the public to be active researchers in projects that will improve human health. And the origins of Breaking Good are as an educational arm of the open source Malaria project, or the open source Malaria Consortium, which is a drug discovery consortium trying to find a new medicine to treat malaria, but without any secrecy, with all patents removed and with open electronic lab notebooks. And this removal of secrecy enabled us to do some really exciting work with young people, with undergraduates, and latterly with school students in trying to recreate medicines and to make new medicines for the treatment of malaria, such as these medicines, the triazola pyrazines, where swapping out different chemical groups where the blue and green blobs are can be trialed against malaria. We also recreated a medicine called Daraprim with a high school team after this medicine was hiked in price in the US in 2016, from $13.50 a pill to $750 a pill. And the high school students were able to recreate this very cheaply in the laboratory, and you can see the vial of the medicine that they made compared to the starting material, which was very cheaply available. This medicine is still very reasonable in Australia. It was just a loophole at the time. And really, we began to realize that we weren't just talking about chemistry, we were talking about ethics, we were talking about accessibility to medicine. We were having much, as equally interesting conversations. I love chemistry too, but talking about the role of chemistry and science in society. In 2020, like most of us, we had to change our plans a little bit. We couldn't go into schools. We didn't have our undergraduates on campus. And so a very talented team here developed some new projects. One, the Essential Medicines Project, where we explored the prices of medicines and their stories. And we have now launched a new campaign, a social media SciComm campaign called Meet the Medicines, where we're trying to help people to understand more about the medicines on the essential medicines list and to expand our participation to those outside of the laboratory environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alice. That was even you could have spoken for another 20 seconds, I think, if you had wanted to. But thanks for keeping the time, and thanks for everyone to keeping the time so well. It will really give us some time for discussion afterwards, which I'm very happy to have. We'll go from here. We'll actually stay in Australia and go to Shani Phillips to talk about an explosive impact the influence of science shows on teenagers. I should also say, please excuse me. Several of these have co-authors. Several of the presentations have co-authors, and they should of course be mentioned as well. In this very case, you can see it here, and please have a look at the posters afterwards, and you'll see all the people who have been involved in each of these presentations. But Shani, please go on.
Thank you. Hello, my name's Shani. I'm from Perth, Western Australia, and I've created a fake Instagram page to represent the main findings from my Masters in Science Communication. So the aim of my thesis was to investigate the impact of live science shows on high school audiences, seeing if there was any influence on their science study decisions later in high school, as well as comparing the strategies of science presenters who perform the shows with the expectations of the students. So to do that, I used the following methods. 124 high school students were surveyed before and after watching a science show. 35 of them also participated in focus groups a few weeks after their visit to the Science Centre, and 11 science presenters at SciTech in Perth were interviewed about their different strategies they use for different audiences. So what did I find? So the key theme from the interviews with the science presenters was they are all about their audience. There was strong focus on using different strategies to cater for different audiences, and the scripts that were given to each presenter for the different shows was seen as a guide, which should always be adapted for the needs of the audience in front of them. Comparing the survey data before and after the science show, there was a significant increase in students' confidence studying science, motivation to study science and do well in science subjects, and also interest in studying science later in high school and at university. So that was very encouraging. So I interviewed 2 different teams of science presenters at SciTech, and even though they worked for exactly the same organization, there were very different philosophies and strategies that they used for different audiences. this probably won't surprise anyone. The most favorite demonstration in all the shows was explosions and fire. If there were lots of explosions in the show, the biggest explosion was obviously the favorite one. Also, interestingly, the students really valued the importance of the presenters putting the experiments in context, highlighting the importance of relevance to our audiences. So while I set out to study teenagers, I actually found the most interesting part of my results was the interviews with the presenters, and the differences in strategies and philosophies between the different teams supports research that suggests that workplace experience and training is very important for workplace knowledge. So next steps, if I ever have time for a PhD, I think it'd be really interesting to investigate how workplace training and experience influence practical science communication. So thank you very much for listening to our presentation. If you want to read more, you can click on the URL or the read here symbol on my actual poster, and it will take you to my entire thesis. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellent. Yes, we'll come back to this thing about explosions in the questions and answers, maybe, if you want to. And please put everything you would like to know about that in the Q&A at the bottom of the screen. I think we have just one more presentation now, unless the missing presenters have arrived or checked in here.
I just arrived, John. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you will be last here after Mark Ivan from the Philippines, who's going to talk about analyzing media frames. Are you set to go, Mark Ivan?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Sure.
Right.
I'll leave the
just
floor to you.
share my screen. All right. Good evening, everyone. I am Mark Ivan Robles. I'm from the Department of Science and Technology, Philippine Council for Industry, Energy, and Emerging Technology Research and Development, and I'll be presenting to you Frame Up, analyzing media frames of news placements on industry, energy, and emerging technology research projects in the Philippines. Before that, I would like to thank the following. I would like to thank, of course, my supervisor, Dr. Enrico Paringit, our media officer, Raisa Jean Ancheta, and welcome for the bursary. That's why I am here presenting with you. We are one of the 3 sectoral planning councils of DOST. We provide support financially to research and development, and one of our mandates as well is to disseminate information about researches. So my research is about media frames in the Philippines. So on news articles in the Philippines. In the Philippines, one of our challenges is communicating science. In fact, only 15% are aware about information about science. So this poses a challenge for science communicators as they as we attempt to communicate the outputs of our researches. So the research questions that I would like to address in this research are: what are the dominant media frames that our council uses in its press releases? How does media frame this press releases, these stories, and does media retain government framing, or do they change it when they report about innovations in industry, energy, and emerging technology? So it is this study is important as it provides us a look at how Philippine media frame stories in innovation and can be a basis for more in-depth research on agenda setting through media frames on science in the Philippines. My study scope is only for 2019 minus June to September because we had technical issues. It only looks into the frame for the entire press release and for the entire news article, and does not cover features and magazine type placements. The methodology of this one, we obtained all of these news articles from Media Meter, a private media monitoring company. We sorted all of those according to the sectors, and we used the Nisbet's frames of policy debates as a frame for the articles. So this is the frames that we use: progress, economic development, morality, scientific uncertainty, Pandora's box, public accountability, conflict, and middle way. So these are the results. We found that 71% of the stories that we monitored were from enterprise stories, meaning not from press releases, and only 156 or 29% are from press releases. From the enterprise stories, the dominant media frame was on progress, scientific uncertainty, and public accountability. In terms of press releases, the dominant media frames were on economic development, scientific uncertainty, and public accountability. Was there a change? Yes, we found that majority of the stories that were published from press releases were there was a change in media frames, 74% of which. In what media type? Most of them are in the web, where most of the releases were also published. And we also found that the dominant media frames for this type are economic development, scientific uncertainty, and public accountability. In terms of
I need you to wrap up now. Please.
All right. In terms of sectoral coverages, so this is what we found. The dominant media frames are on economic development and scientific uncertainty and public accountability on the key sectors of space technology, application, science, promotion, and in our Young Innovators program. So besides all of those that I have presented to you, this only shows that media focuses on programs that involve human resource and those that have the wonder factor in their story. It also shows to us that there are other media types that that government can explore, like radio and television, where people can get more access on this news. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for this. And I would just advise everyone who wishes to study this further to go to the site and look at all these figures. I think this is very interesting to see how these things have been studied. Finally then, Martin, welcome. I guess you are the last speaker now, and well, if you feel prepared, if you settle down and everything is fine, I'll just give you your 3 minutes and the screen and all the attendees' attention, please.
Okay, thanks so much, and sorry for being late. I'm Ferdows Israel, who actually would like to present this, but I'm replacing him, so I needed to fit it to my agenda. So sorry for being late, and I'm going to read the posters, of course. And you? Okay. I will share my screen with you as well as the others did, and I want to show you a PDF exactly. Let me see, share screen. That's the one over here. Do you see my screen? Yeah, visible. This is about a living lab. It's about one of the buzzwords these days, living labs, in which universities, governance, industry, service industry, citizens work together. And it's quite a buzzword these days. And what we want to present actually is, what does it mean from a science communication perspective? So what are the hurdles, what are the things which are easy or less easy to do, and how can we see the development of living labs from a science communication perspective? So that's part of our research within the group. If you talk about living labs, actually, what's the question, what are they? And I think what they mainly do is they combine theory and practice. Theory of all kinds of technologies, all kinds of sciences, and the practice of governance, practice of industry, and how things come together. So it's about a combination of public and private knowledge and how people could work together. There are two different ways two main different things that could lead to actually what is living labs actually are meant for. Validation of knowledge, of course, but also ideation and exploration. So there might be an idea that needs to be validated within the practice so people can use it and the way it is used, but also for ideation and exploration of new topics. So you do have different types of living labs. And what we see is that within this is a picture we draw, making use of the primary colors of Piet Mondriaan, a Dutch, famous Dutch painter. And actually, this is how we see science communication. So we see like science communication on the society side, with the broader audience, museums, public dialogue. And we see science communication when scientists work together with scientists and engineers and policymakers. And we see that living labs are somewhere in between. That's what we call midstream. So we see from an innovation perspective, upstream is the collaboration between scientists, downstream is the collaboration with citizens, for example, and midstream innovation takes place. And we see that living labs are, well, actually covering this area from exploration, ideation towards, okay, how people could validate this in their own practice. So, and we do see that it is a kind of, it leads to mutual understanding in an ideal way, mutual understanding of how technology could be used. And it leads to a kind of thinking about inclusivity. So how could technology be made appropriate for a certain application within society? That's what we ideally see, and what often, well, sometimes actually is seen within practice. But it's also hard work. We do see from a, our research point of view, we do see that people find it quite hard to collaborate. So there is a ideal way of doing things, and there is the reality of bringing things together. And there you see that collaboration, communication really is a key component of living labs. And what we see in one case is the one over here, the EIT Health Living Labs and Testbeds. EIT is a large fund for research in health and technology. And here you can see that it's quite hard to get ideas from industry into the university, the other way around, and then together work on a living lab. People start with great enthusiasm.
I need you to start wrapping up this so we can.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So people find enthusiasm at the very beginning, and then it becomes quite hard, and then they find, from a science communication perspective, all kinds of problems. Whereas on the other side, we do have conversion agenda at our university. Delft and Rotterdam come together, and there you see that from the very beginning. I think that's the main point. What we see is that communication should be part of the origin of a living lab from the start on. So science communication is not an add-on or something that happens at the end, but something that is intrinsically part of human beings working together. That's it. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you everyone for keeping the time and giving us a chance to have a little discussion here at the end. And it's been excellent. I think we can do there's a polling exercise here for the attendees. I don't think the panelists are expected to vote for the most interesting or best presentation, but I can put this one up here while the question is, who do you think gave the best visual presentation in this session? And it's nothing that will be presented publicly afterwards, but the best ones will be invited to a special session later on. So please do that. I'll keep it open for a minute or so while you think about other questions and put them in the Q&A or in the chat box. Actually, I think I'll start with a question from the chat, if I can find it again. Here it is for Martin from Public and Science. It says, great, it's from Liselott Ramboni. Great that you're already doing this science since 2009. I see that citizen science projects are mainly focusing on biodiversity, environment, and health. Are you also able to find researchers from social sciences and humanities for the annual citizen science project? I think that's an excellent question. Martin.
Thank you.
Are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for that question. It's an excellent question. I totally agree. And of course, I should have said that yes, we do also projects within other fields than sort of environmental sciences and natural sciences and technology, of course. That's one of the reasons that we actually do a new citizen science project each year, because then we have the opportunity to change the research topic, the research focus, the research group that we're collaborating with. Last year, we did a project around food waste, the food waste experiments, doing a project around food waste in Swedish schools. This year, we're doing what's called the housing experiment, where we'll look at mapping of accessibility in Swedish houses and apartments and see how well adapted they are to people with disabilities. So that's sort of, and we also do other sort of more purely sort of humanities projects. So yes, we do. I should have mentioned that.
Thank you, Martin. I'll go on to the questions in the Q&A section now, and there is actually one for all of you. So this is a chance for anyone who is the quickest to think here to start, and then go on through the rest of the panel if you want to answer this. It's from Fernando Alves, and he asks, while elaborating a project or program based on citizen science model, what were the challenges to not let it slide in a top-down deficit model attitude during the activities? Interesting question. Who would like to answer first?
I can go first.
Okay, you're welcome. Please.
Thank you. I think one important key there is having already in mind the target beneficiaries of the project. For example, for us here in the Philippines, we do put a premium in doing stakeholder meetings wherein we invite all of the possible beneficiaries and those who would be involved in doing a science communication project. We try to involve the community, local government officials, other agencies from the national government who may be interested as well in the project. So to avoid doing that, we take the pulse of the people and know what would they want, what would they need, so that we may be able to answer that need as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who would add into this question about not to let it slid into a deficit model?
May I add something? If, okay.
Yeah, Martin, please.
Martin.
Yeah, shall I? Yeah. Okay. I think it's also important to see that it is like a system from a systems perspective. So parts of what we do with the different audiences might be more or less based on a deficit model, or at the beginning, others might be completely different, like a dialogue model. So I think it's not like one or zero, or one or the other. I think it's like, if you look at it from a system perspective, there are many things happening at the same time. And there might be elements of deficit needed at some point, I don't know. And might be elements of dialogue as well. So I think it's a coexisting of all kinds of things that could happen next to each other.
Right. Excellent. Thank you. Anyone else who would add to this, or otherwise I will go on to another question and come back to this afterwards. No volunteers more. I hope you got a couple of good answers, Fernando, and that you're happy with this. I have a question here for Chi Lin. Were the community members, this is about the farming thing, you remember, were the community members involved in the decision of which crops to grow and in general on the running of the farm?
Right. So that's the right. So we did. That's an important step to discuss with the local members about the crops of their choices, the seasonal. So Right. So now I'm responding to the, did I consult with the local members? Sorry, I couldn't quite.
The question was if the community members were involved in the decisions
yes,
of the crop.
right. Yes, I get that. Right. So yes, we advise in advance because there are 2 seasons to grow our crops. So we did invite the local members to join our discussion to decide which to. It's a small patch, so we need to carefully choose like a drought tolerant crops. Yes, and also to co-create. The idea is to co-farming and co-create like an edible landscape, and that's the purpose for everyone to be able to share ideas. Yes, so yes, for that question. Thank you for that question. Yes, they all have their dream crops. So all the time and then that's related to another question. I believe there are 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes. That's
So
about if you develop some general guidelines that could be used to replicate your activity in different contexts.
Yes, that's right. Because I think there's well, based on that's a really good cost for. Thank you for the question and the comments. So I think one thing quite important is to consult the agriculture experts to have their idea to decide what's seasonal. It's not top down, but it's try to learn. It's kind of co-learning process of creating a visionary or healthy community. So that's the guideline I like to recommend, because everyone have their dream crops, as I mentioned. But if we could decide what is the kind of to talk about food security, so there's always some choice like for local challenges, the food for everyone to think about. When they see the crops grow, it's not just the crop, it's also the social issues. Yes, so to consult the agriculture experts, and also to have the support from the community members, quite important. Before we set up the farm, we did a kind of general survey about the location. Also, there's one practical things is to secure a funding for this for long run of this farm. And then if we can, so that's why I mentioned if there's some crops we can do like a charity events in the community that will be secure the funding. So that's my replies. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be happy to try and introduce that in Sweden, but I think we'll have to choose some different crops here.
Yes, that's right.
Staying within the food and eating area, there's a question also for Carolina from Spain. Thank you for sharing these insights. It's about this diet things. How is age determining the influence of family and relatives? Are relatives, for example, more important for young or actually for older people? Do you know something about that,
Yeah.
Carolina?
Yes, thank you. I remember the data, and the only significant aspect of this study is younger women prefer the opinion from their friends, but we don't have data related with the familiar relationship. There are no significant data, I'm afraid. And I could see different questions about the different socio-demographic aspect, and I'm afraid the response is no. There are no significant implication. However, we are trying to study more the data, because we collecting the data in the citizen consultation Isabel Mendoza presented before, because we had 100 people, very representative, or very diversity, with a lot of diversity from the Spanish society. And we thought, okay, these people could be excellent sample for our study. So we try to collect data from them. And I mean, we are right now working with the different statistical in the sample, but right now we don't have significant differences from age. And the other variable interesting is the educational level is not relevant in any response of this survey. And I was surprised about that, because sometimes we thought always, especially in science communication, we always thought educational level could be conditioned the result, but in this case it is not relevant. People with high formal education and primary education, the result were very, very similar. So is my answer. And
Yeah.
I hope to publish the result early.
We look
Thank
forward
you.
to seeing that. I think it's a very important thing to talk about who is actually influential when we make our dietary decisions, because this is all about public health and our time.
And this, sorry, only one thing, these data are collecting before the pandemic, you know.
Right.
And after the pandemic, we could study about the superpower of the food and different food related with the magical solution for the COVID-19, you know, this kind of thing. But this data, this survey is before the pandemic. So maybe the data are conditioned by the situation.
Probably.
Probably, maybe.
I have one more question here, which I'm going to ask Martin if you would like to answer. It's a 1 hour answer is possible, but I would like to ask you to do it in like 30 seconds. It's about someone writing, I'd be interested to know how you balance allowing a free dialogue between participants and researchers and facilitating discussion without dominating the conversation. And
Yes.
as a PS here is, and I hope the question makes sense, and I think it does, doesn't it?
It does, and it's a very good question. Did you say 30 minutes or 30 seconds? No.
I think I said 30 seconds.
Yeah,
but
so it's a really good question, and one challenge that we have is that a large proportion of the participants is actually school kids. So we communicate a lot through the teachers, and we do that, for example, by having a Facebook group for teachers where they can connect with the researchers, with us, but also with each other. We also have Q&As with the kids, which is very interesting because we got a lot of questions about the research, but also about questions about sort of how is it to be a researcher? What do you do all day? And I think that's very important and interesting aspects of doing citizen science. But also questions that are not research related, sort of what's your favorite football team and so on, which is also interesting because these school kids are sort of, it proves that they're curious of knowing if these researchers are they're sort of ordinary people, and which is a big part of this sort of the concept also, that yes, the researchers are ordinary people also, and they're sort of yes. So we do it in all kinds of ways, but it's a challenge definitely to keep this open and free dialogue, if that's what's meant by free. Yes.
Thank you, Martin. And by that, I think we'll end this. And please stay tuned to all of these, all of the presenters here. And I know there will be more things coming from them onwards here, like more results from public and science, and more results about the diets, and more results about the campus farming. There will be another session tomorrow at 6 p.m. British summertime. That's a question for you to find out what that is in your time zone. I'm afraid it will, some places for some of you will be very, very late or very early in the morning, but please find out. It's about COVID, environment, communication, and more, and it will be chaired by my very dear colleague Marina Schubert from Stellenbosch University in South Africa. With this, I would like to thank you all. I will also say that the polling ended with a victory for Shani Phillips, wasn't it? And the explosion presentations. Well, there you go. You can think about that until tomorrow. And
Thank you.
How come the explosions are so important? So please join us tomorrow as well. As I said, 6 p.m. British summertime, and see you more. And please look at the schedule for the remaining sessions until the real conference starts. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for interesting presentations, and see you soon again, all of you, I hope. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, John. Okay, thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.